Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I am here today with Bree Argetsinger, aka the Betty Rocker, is an internationally known health and fitness coach, innovative entrepreneur, and motivator of self-growth. Over 3 million people have taken her free 30-day Make Fat Cry home workout challenge, and thousands of women enjoy success in her online home workout studio, Rock Your Life. She incorporates a strong, holistic focus on body balancing, self kindness, and alignment into her work. Thanks to her background as a hands on structural alignment practitioner and her training in the CHEK corrective high performance exercise kinesiologist program, hailed as a gateway to personal growth through food and fitness. She takes an accessible, all or something approach to living a healthy lifestyle of balance and encourages women to listen to their bodies, trust themselves, and remember that floss plus awesome equal flawsome. And I just got to apologize today. I am sucking down cough drops and I've had the flu. So I'm doing the best I can with this. You guys are going to love this interview today with Bree. It met all my expectations. I loved having the Betty Rocker on the Sisterhood of Sweat today. And she's going to teach you how to rock your life, not just rock your body. She talked a lot about strategies for our menstrual cycle, peri and postmenopause strategies, why we want to focus more on muscle and less on fat loss, self-talk and self-love being very important, the 4 pillars of health, why it's all or something, not all or nothing, and her flawsome concept, and so much more. I'm running out of voice, but tune in because this was an incredible interview with the one, the only Betty Rocker. I am so excited to welcome Bree Argetsinger, aka the Betty Rocker, to the Sisterhood of Sweat today. Welcome.
Woohoo! I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I am so excited to finally have you on the show. I heard you on my friend's show, Lisa Lutan and Andrea Beeman of the Healthy View Radio forever ago, and fell in love with you. I even ordered, I think, a course. And I love the way that you always make it your body weight and very, very challenging. And for those of you that don't know the Betty Rocker, she is a force to be reckoned with today. And I'm very excited to have you on the show. And I just want to know, where in the world did the name Betty Rocker come from?
It's such a fun name, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
I
something I
love
get
it.
asked a lot. I when I was growing up, I was always I loved baking and I loved very like taking care of people, and so I was kind of a Betty Crocker type, but also had this sort of edgy vibe because I was always like pursuing adrenaline sports, mountain biking, motorcycle riding, dirt biking, jumping out of airplanes, skydiving, all these things. And so I started to get the moniker punk rock Betty Crocker, which was sort of like this mishmash of like my two sides to my personality. And that kind of morphed into Betty Rocker. So, while I may be the original Betty Rocker out there in my tribe, everybody who follows the brand is a Betty Rocker. Just like you have sisters in Sisterhood of Sweat. I mean, we're all connected and we can all share in the enjoyment of that name.
And I love that so much. How did you get started? What was your personal journey into uh, the fitness and wellness space? How did you arrive here?
I had, like many women in my 20s and teens, probably a really poor body image and really not the greatest approach to health and wellness, despite pursuing nutrition and indigenous cultures and an anthropology major at Tufts when I was first going to college. I was always very interested in nutrition and in like holistic practices. However, I, just like so many girls I know, got really sucked into diet culture really young. And I was constantly feeling that mental pressure of, how did I measure up? Was I pretty enough? Was I smart enough? How could I prove my worth and my value? And as a result, I got really sucked into the kind of treadmill, literally the treadmill, but also like the wheel we get sort of stuck on of never feeling like we measure up, never feeling like we do enough. And I, despite like having this good foundation of really strong nutritional knowledge, I went off the deep end eating salads and diet foods and not eating enough food and overtraining when I was in my 20s, and dabbling in different fad diets and different things that I thought would help me, all the while not really putting together the underlying educational pieces quite yet. And over time, with my own struggles with my body and my self confidence and my mental health, I started to understand the need to like take responsibility for myself and take this education that I had, get more education, and start to put these pieces together. So eventually I became a structural integrationist, and I was working with mostly motorcycle racers and extreme sports athletes, realigning their bodies, doing postural corrections, and prescribing a lot of specific exercises to them due to my, kinesiology studies. And I was very motivated to also support them with nutrition. And over time, they just kept asking me, can you like give me like can you like write all this down? And on my own personal journey, I was also applying and testing these things on myself. And I went back to school. I got more education. I got a personal training certification. I began practicing this, started my blog, started an Instagram, started all these things, and started really sharing what was practically working for my clients, and was able to really put a lot of that good structural work into the workouts that I created, which is why people who do any of my programs, whether they're body weight with resistance equipment or fully in the gym, they are able to have amazing posture and better body awareness
I
because of
already want to
this,
sit
right?
up straighter
Yeah,
with
you
just
want to sit up
listening to you
straighter.
talking about it. Like,
Good. Good. Yeah,
so,
that's what it's all about. But that's where I kind of came from. That's how I came up.
and I love that. And I really want to dive back into what you said, because this will relate to so many of my female listeners today, and actually male, because I think it's just in the media, this whole example of what we're supposed to look like and be. And people are beating themselves up to be actually what is a photoshopped image half the time. So, what do you feel that it was that you were really chasing when you were going through this whole thing where you weren't really eating the way you knew you should be eating for your own health?
You're so, spot on with the body image stuff. And I felt like, back in I'm 45 at the time that we're recording this podcast. So you can think back to, when I was in my 20s and what time of the world that was and American culture. My Instagram was magazines. I was looking at the fitness magazines and fitness models. And well, I had to give a lot of credit to these incredible, hardworking women. When they knew they were going to have a photo shoot in whatever magazine, they were getting as lean as possible. And they probably had some support from whoever was airbrushing their natural cellulite off. And, I just feel it really devalued the message to women in that sense, just like we're getting that same messaging today on Instagram and social media, where women are feeling like they need to touch up their images of their real bodies, because I don't think that's real strength. That's not real beauty, like these false images. And they really messed with my mind as a young woman. And I had to do a lot of work to overcome that, to accept my body and love it as it went through the different stages, like throughout the course of the year. As you know, as a trainer, I have a pretty specific fitness regimen. I have all the access to all the information, and I apply it to myself. So it's easy for me, easier than most probably, to create a chiseled, strong physique. However, as a smart trainer, I also don't try to maintain the most lean body throughout the entire year. I cycle through the seasons of my own life. I cycle through the seasons of my own month time as I'm going through my own cycle, right? So I started to really learn and value how this beautiful journey the body goes through, and how we want to learn to appreciate it, and not try to put this pressure on ourselves to look a way that isn't actually even true. It's not even real. It could be real some of the time, but it's not real all the time. And I think we're selling ourselves short, having this like unrealistic expectation of how we're supposed to look all the time when that's not even reality. And I don't think that's really beautiful.
That is so, so true. And I really think part of what people are chasing is love and acceptance, approval, recognition. And if they realize that a little bit more, it makes it more clear. And also self-acceptance. Sometimes we don't accept ourselves if we're less than perfect. And I think it's in our imperfections that people truly relate to us and love us. And so if we can embrace our flaws, and I also want to dive into that with you, because you talk about this whole flawsome concept and how it applies towards our mentality, towards ourselves, and how we're speaking to ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, you just said a lot of like really wise things there, because that desperate need for acceptance and our need to like get approval, that's, I say desperate, but it's a very human need. We all want to be approved of. We all want to be loved, right? But when we're not aware that the behaviors that we're exhibiting aren't really healthy for us, and that we're constantly chasing love from an external source because we can't love ourselves the way we are, this is where we totally undermine our ability, our autonomy, our personal power. And I feel like this word flawsome, it really spoke to me when I heard it, because it enables me to remember that I'm awesome and I can still have flaws. I can still be human. And I don't even really think they're actually flaws. I think they're human. I think it's just a helpful term to remind me that I don't have to live up to somebody else's standard of perfection. Like that I'm great. I'm awesome just as I am, right? And that we're all different, and we all have different flaws and different things that make us unique, and that's part of being a real person, being authentic and genuine.
And I love that. And I always am telling my girls at my gym to embrace their flaws, to embrace them, but also really, if you focus more on your assets, your flaws kind of fade into the background. Like how many women out there are only seeing their flaws? Like when they look in the mirror, maybe they don't like their nose, maybe they don't like um, their hips. And instead of seeing all these beautiful things that make you you, you're focusing on one attribute.
You're focusing on one attribute. Yeah, you're only zeroing in on the thing that you feel is wrong with you, instead of like because and this stuff takes a little mental practice. Just like you didn't get good at squats or form or like lunge form without practicing these movements over and over. I had to practice looking for positive things in myself, noticing when I was being negative, because the brain is primal. It's wired for fear and being saving us from danger. And so we tend to like go to the negative very naturally. We tend to do that. And in this society, this all the comparison and stuff that exacerbates that feeling, I think. And so if we are tenacious and we are dedicated to the practice of self-love, and we are able to catch those negative thoughts and transition them into a positive thought, or start to really practice looking for things to love about ourselves. I mean, you and
I
me,
love
Linda,
that.
we're newer friends, right? But like
Yeah.
after meeting you, if someone asked me about you, I would immediately start telling them all about like how down to earth you are, how genuine you are, how you care about all the right things, and how you lift other women up, right? I immediately am looking for things that are, I feel we're similar to each other in, and things that are good. Why could I not then do the same thing for myself? But this is what happens with a lot of women, right? Like they can say all the good things about their best friends and how wonderful they are. And even when those best friends are struggling, they can still help their best friends see the good in the situation. We're amazing coaches for our friends, amazing supporters. We have to be able to reflect that same skill set onto ourselves and practice that.
I love that. I love that so much. Now, when you were talking about self-talk, I really want to
Yeah.
dive into that because we kind of started picking on it with I'm looking at our flaws, but it's also the mean things that you're saying to yourself on a regular basis. How did you change that? And what did you see transform after you changed the way you were speaking to yourself?
That's so the right question. Like I I realized that I was saying these negative things to myself, and I had um, this incredible coach at the time. He became a mentor to me. He was a former Mr. America from the 80s, and he trained out of my gym. His name's Tom Terwilliger. He's an amazing man. And he and I are both from New York, and we bonded at the gym one day, sitting on like a bench, putting our sneakers on. And I just started talking to him, and I was at that stage of my life where I just like had this really strong sense that I needed a mentor. I needed someone to guide me, and I asked him for his support. And back then, that was when I was still doing structural integration work. And so you can imagine this man, he probably could have used some good body work. So we did a cool trade exchange. And Tom coached me on this negative self-talk piece, and I want to share with you this really cool practice that he gave me. And this is what helped really turn the corner for me in myself. I'm sure, ladies, a lot of you who have long hair, you wear like a hair tie around your wrist. Or if you don't, you could put a rubber band around your wrist. Yeah, see, Linda's got hers on. So he had me he said, whenever you catch yourself thinking something negative, just snap the rubber band on your wrist. It's not going to hurt a lot. It's just going to start to create a physical association with a mental association. So you're calling your attention to it when you do it. And that was really powerful for me because it was negative enough that I had to take note, right? And I had to work to be aware when I was doing it because it was so automatic that I didn't pay attention to it very much until I was like, okay, this is really important for me. I need to pay attention to this. So I would snap the rubber band, and as soon as I did that, I was like, okay, and now my homework is I have to find something positive to say to myself as a result. And so, just like any practice that you repeat over time, you start to strengthen the neural pathways in your brain, just like you strengthen the muscles in your biceps when you do bicep curls over and over, right? You
Yeah.
strengthen these pathways. And when these pathways become strong, it's just like muscle memory. Over time, even if you fall off this practice for a while, it's going to become more automatic. It's going to be easier and easier to build it back up, to always have it there for you. And this was a foundational piece for me that really helped me to start to just constantly reframe things into a more positive light. And I think that's a really important skill set because life is always going to present you with challenges. However, you are the creator of your own life. You're not a victim in your life. You are a creator in your life. And you can reach out to coaches, mentors, listen to great podcasts like this one for support and resources so that you can empower yourself to continue to create the life that you want to create. You don't have to live with the shame or the fear or the sort of crushing, oppressive weight of other people's expectations. You're in control. And I feel like that was something that really helped me to kind of get out of that negative rut and stop negative self talk.
I love that. That was a tweetable. I love it. All about not carrying the weight of other people's expectations on your shoulders.
Seriously.
So good today. And I wouldn't be doing you justice if I didn't dive into your four pillars of health. What what are the four pillars of health today?
I really felt like as I was, starting to teach workouts, I feel like a lot of women respond to the workouts because we're very conditioned to think that what's going to give us the best results are the workouts. And you're right, your workouts are an important piece of your training, of your healthy lifestyle. But I see your healthy lifestyle as a holistic thing. And we were talking about the things that your personal power, your autonomy, the things that you have control over. These are four things that you have control over, no one else. And they're four things that you can take action on. There are other things like genetic predispositions, illnesses, hormone imbalances, those things we need a doctor for. Mental health things we need a therapist for. We need people to support some of the external things that maybe are internal, but we need resources. These 4 pillars are things you can do every day to support yourself. The first one is sleep, because without proper rest and recovery,
Mm.
human growth hormone can't elevate. We can't rebuild the muscle tissue after we've worked out. These all impact the workouts you do and make them more effective. If you're not focusing on these other pillars, you really are just like spinning your wheels. You're going to maybe like not get as much of a result from doing these workouts. So sleep is number 1. Nutrition is number 2. I'm sure these are all things that are not going to be unfamiliar to you. Nutrition is so, so important. Making sure you are properly fueled around your workouts, not constantly skipping meals and under fueling. As women, we don't want to be in that heightened cortisol state, which makes us store more body fat and undermines our energy and breaks down our muscle tissue. We want to be eating nourishing foods. We want to be eating protein with each main meal, making sure that we're getting those aminos into our system to help with muscle repair and recovery and muscle protein synthesis, not to mention cognitive function, immune function, hormone and enzyme function. Your amino acids from your protein are essential for everything. And if you're not eating enough of them throughout the day, your body will steal them from your muscle tissue. So again, going into a workout underfueled, not eating within the optimal recovery window for women, which ladies is 30 to 45 minutes, men get up to 3 hours. There are sex differences with training that are important to know. I think that you can have a much better result. Obviously, we need good, healthy, complex carbohydrates that give you slow, lasting energy, that don't spike your insulin levels. We want to avoid the processed foods, eat healthy fat for the production of your hormones and your brain power, right? All of these things are really important. Healthy veggies and greens, getting those micronutrients in. I could go on and on about nutrition, but that's the second pillar. The third pillar is stress management. We touched on cortisol. That's the stress hormone. It's not a bad hormone. It has a natural cycle throughout the day within your body and in your brain. But when we're constantly stressed out and stress is elevated, cortisol is elevated in our system all the time, this is constantly putting your body under strain. It's constantly making you store fat more readily, and it's breaking down your muscle tissue. So especially as we get into our 40s and beyond, having active practices to reduce the stress that you're feeling, being proactive about them, scheduling them in, just like you schedule your workout. I feel like so many of us are so focused on the workout. We schedule that in. We're doing it like at 5 a.m. when we have no energy. We don't even feel like eating at that time. We're forcing ourselves to get this workout done because we feel like that's the thing that's going to give us the result. But we're actually doing ourselves harm in this regard because we're not actually getting enough rest. We're not prioritizing stress management. We're not eating appropriately. And all of these things sort of add up. And then we wonder, why am I not seeing results, right? And we go for all these biohacks. We go for all these different things that we're buying instead of just going back to the basics and dialing them in. And so that's why I'm so passionate about these 4 pillars, because I feel like for free, you have all these things that you can do yourself, to enhance the workout results that you're getting, that you don't need to go buy 20 supplements and all of these different biohacks, which I think are great. They're great when you already have the baseline dialed in. It's like why I wouldn't tell someone to go load up a big heavy barbell if they haven't mastered the foundations of functional fitness when it comes to your squat form, right? You're not supposed to go, because that's not going to help you. That might hurt you, actually. It's not going to help.
Actually, yes.
Yes. So that's the 4 pillars of health in a nutshell. And I just want to also say real quick that life is dynamic. You will not always be able to nail all 4 pillars of health every single day perfectly in a row. You're going to go through seasons of life where sleep can't be a priority because you just had a baby, or someone passed away, or there's a new job, or there's just a transition in life, right? Let's say sleep is the pillar that goes out from under you. Well, that's when you have 3 other pillars to support you. In those times, you're going to focus as best you can on your nutrient intake being healthy. You're going to do lower impact workouts without overtraining, because if you're undersleeping, you don't want to overtrain, with balance, right? You're going to also really prioritize stress management. These things are part of life, right? And say you get sick or injured and you can't exercise, which is one thing I see all the time. People pushing themselves to work out when they're sick or when they're injured. Exercise is a healthy stress to the body when we are healthy. And so you must, when you're sick or injured, focus on your other 3 pillars. You'll recover better, stronger, and faster if you're getting good sleep, eating healthy, and managing your stress during that time. I mean, it's just like these pillars work together. It's okay if you don't have them all dialed in all the time. Know that they work to support you. They create resilience in your body over time. So that's my long explanation.
Well, I am in
Also know you
total
asked.
agreement with you on those pillars. And I will say that I really learned some of those pillars the hard way when
Right,
I was injured because I was doing way too many shows in a year and I had
right.
menopause at the same time. And which was another thing. I didn't realize the changes I needed to make when my body was changing. So I kind of want to dive into um, what were your training strategies when you yourself began experiencing difference in your menstrual cycle, peri and postmenopause,
So I mentioned I'm 45. I would say I'm in perimenopause at the moment. So maybe a little like, and by the
and
way, ladies
post?
out there listening, in your post, right, like you mentioned, I feel like these transitions are gateways in a woman's life. They're really special, and society has, and culturally we've looked at them as detrimental, and that a woman's just like dried up and useless after she goes through menopause. This is total BS.
Oh, I
This
love that
is
you
an
said that.
incredible, it is, because this is an incredible powerful transition for a woman to go through. And so I think Linda and myself are both all about empowering you with information about how your body works so that you can have the best possible transition as you go through these times and make the most of your amazing life, right? Like different things become accessible at this life stage as we go through these times. Now, what happens to a lot of women once we get to perimenopause is, of course, we stop having the same perturbation of estrogen and progesterone cycling equally all the time. And so at this time in our life, as well as postmenopause, when those hormones flatline, we want to start taking advantage of different training strategies that sort of circumnavigate our ability to build muscle when we had the circulating estrogen progesterone. So the two primary things that I would say that really can help stimulate muscle protein synthesis and reduce body fat storage during these times of a woman's life are to start to lift heavier. Start to say if you're someone who's brand new to training or you're a beginner, start with the body weight, build a strong foundation, then build yourself up to adding in resistance. Then maybe build yourself up after that in a year to starting to lift in the gym, starting, or maybe you have more weights at home. If you're someone who's working with light resistance right now, consider upping the stimulus to your muscle tissue, because your body needs a greater stimulus than it's been getting, and that's what's going to help you build that muscle and help you start to reduce the body fat. It's going to really impact your body composition. It's going to work better when you also start to up your protein intake. And as we age, after we get past 40, our muscle tissue it doesn't absorb the amino acids from protein as readily. So we actually have to increase the amount of protein that we're taking in over 40. And this becomes extremely essential when we're going through peri and postmenopause. When you combine upping your protein intake with starting to add more resistance to your workouts, you're going to start to see a better result. You also want to get out of this sort of like no days off mentality if you're not there already. Especially important to stop over-inflaming your system by overtraining. We have to start thinking about polarizing our training at this time. So being able to go hard in your workouts and then backing off. We want to be doing a combination of explosive cardio, so plyometrics, to really help uptake that glucose from our carbs, and that resistance training. The combination of those two training styles is going to be optimal for you. It's going to be better than the long, steady state endurance type workouts, which if you do those for your mental health or you enjoy them, please feel free to do them. But know that the optimal type of training for body composition as we go through these life stages is going to be more of the explosive plyo, the heavier we go with the weight training, and also the upping of the protein intake. You also want to make sure that you're not eating processed foods. It's even more important at this time to pay attention to that. When you are still having a regular menstrual cycle, you are going to be a little bit more tolerant to some of those like more sugary foods, especially in the first half of your cycle when estrogen predominates, which is going to be more anabolic. It's going to help you. That's why you're going to be hitting those PRs in the first half of your cycle. It's once you ovulate and you get into the progesterone being elevated that you want to start to back off on your training a little bit, be a little bit more mindful of your carb intake, and that's just the way it works when we're still having a regular cycle. So as we get into perimenopause, when things start to slow down, we start to really pay attention to and dial these other strategies in. We're also going to be really paying attention to the four pillars of health, right? We're thinking about our stress management because cortisol, like, think about the life stage most women are in their 40s and 50s. Like in their 40s, a lot of women have children still that they're having to manage. They're working and they just have a lot more stuff, a lot more stressors in their life. So, isn't it kind of a relief for me to say you don't have to train every day? Back off on your training and how many days you're going hard. Go harder on the days you do have time for training. Fuel appropriately around your training. Don't go into your workout like having not eaten for like 12 hours. You know, it's going to be really tough to be able to push hard. Plus, you're already in a catabolic state. So, why are you going into your workout where you're going to be also in a catabolic state, breaking down muscle on a catabolic state? Like, let's be fueled going into the workout. Let's fuel within the appropriate timing window. Let's make sure all of our fuel comes from whole foods as much as possible. Nail your protein. You want to be on that 30 to 40 grams at least in this life stage per meal. So I'm sure, Linda, you talk a lot about protein intake and helping women optimize that. But I think these are the life stages that a lot of women struggle with the weight gain because their hormones are no longer cycling. And no doctor out there right yet is telling you these strategies. A lot of these strategies that I'm telling you come from continuing education that I've done with scientist and researcher Dr. Stacy Sims, who studies sex differences in men and women. And I took continuing education courses with her around menopause transition. She's got a great book coming out that you can read called Next Level. And she also has
What was the
Roar,
name
which
of that
covers
again?
Next Level, which is the menopause book that's coming out shortly. And then she's got another book for women who are still having a regular cycle called Roar. You can apply the stuff I just told you to literally any training program there is. That's why I don't feel like you have to have a menopause specific training program. You can apply this knowledge to absolutely any training program that you're doing. And these strategies will work for everyone. So that's all that I have learned and what I'm consistently doing myself. And as you can see, my physique is super fit. I'm practicing all the things that I'm talking about and they're working for me. So that's what I have to say about that.
And I love it. I love it. I've been working, we're surrounded by buddies today. I've been working with Dr. Stephanie Estima of the Betty Body. And she is all about all of the philosophies you've been talking about surrounding your menstrual cycle, peri and postmenopause, which a lot of people have never been focusing on the fact that if your body's changing and you're losing hormones, you have to have a different approach. You have to change what you've been doing. And I love how you were talking about adding in the protein, but also the lifting, which boosts your testosterone, which also then helps you with estrogen, which you're probably losing. And we can't deal with stress in the same way when we have no estrogen. Then our body spikes that cortisol. So you have to become so much better at stress management and getting sleep than you ever have been before.
So true. You nailed it. I mean, this is it in a nutshell. It really, really is. And I also will say that for a brief time, my doctor had me using hormone replacement therapy. And I think it helped me get through a transition, but then I wanted to sort of transition to a more natural approach. So I started using adaptogens. And I would say that that's worth some research for your listeners if they're interested in that, because there are some pretty cool adaptogens. So rhodiola, for instance, it's called an SERMS, a SERMS. So it's a selective estrogen reuptake modulator. And what that means is that if your estrogen is low, it will help boost your body's natural estrogen production. If your estrogen is high, it helps to dampen the impact of the estrogen in your system. And this can be very valuable when you're going through perimenopause, for instance, where things are really fluctuating. There are others that, like maca. I love maca as well.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just did a blog post, like 6 adaptogens that I use for hormone balance. So you can read that on my blog if you're interested. But I just think that this is a really interesting and untapped resource for women because adaptogens take a little time to work with your body. You need to take them for a month or so sometimes to really start to see that impact. They're not like a drug where you're going to have like, or, and I'm thank goodness we have all these options, right? But an adaptogen kind of like has a conversation with your body and then helps out in the way that's most useful for you. And I will say that estradiol, which is E2 for short, there's basically three hormones in the estrogen collection. We don't always hear about these, but E2 is the one that you can't really replace it synthetically. So you might be taking an estrogen replacement, but it doesn't replace the E2. And E2 is the anabolic estrogen, the one that helps us build muscle that we start to lose as we get into this life stage. So what's really cool about the adaptogens is they can help you with the natural E2 that you still have as you're going through the transition, and help you boost your own body's natural production of the E2. So I've been finding a lot of success with that currently in the life stage I'm in. And we can remember like perimenopause can last for like 8 to 10 years. There are differences culturally, like different cultures have different lengths of time that they go through perimenopause. It's fascinating. So I just think that that's another viable resource for women to check out if they're going through the transition. And also those things can be helpful in menopause as well. So just cool tools that we have available that you don't need a prescription for.
And I also did bioidenticals for a while, but then I got off of them, and I'm actually returning more to my normal self. No injuries, my normal weight. And I've been doing some things like what you're doing. I definitely use the maca, and I use Purifica. I don't know if I'm saying it right, Mercana, which helps me with my estrogen. And I have all sorts of other little things that I like to use instead that have actually, I feel, worked better for me. And I really not anything against HRT or bioidentical.
Right.
But I think now that I'm on the other side of it, I really like being able to they feel more holistic to me. And
they're
it
working
just,
with your body. Like
yeah,
it's like a conversation that it's having with your body as opposed to like someone coming in with a megaphone and telling your body what to do, which is sometimes we need. Sometimes our body needs that kind of like thing to transition or to go through something. And like what we're both talking about, I mean, I feel like I worked with a functional medicine doctor while I was using both the HRT and the adaptogens, and I have had blood work done on both spectrums of my choice of what I was using. And
love that.
we're seeing just like massive improvement in all of my hormone levels right now on the adaptogens. But I had been exposed to mold a couple years back, and it took me a couple of years to heal from that. And I wasn't quite in perimenopause when I got the exposure, and it kicked me into early perimenopause, I believe. It really wreaked havoc on my hormones. And so I was really grateful for the bioidentical hormone treatment while I was struggling as I was healing from that and detoxing, and kind of just that like all kinds of, mold attacks your mitochondria. So it undermines your body's ability to produce energy. It was sapping my strength, my brain power. I had brain fog. I was losing muscle. Fortunately, and this is something you never really think about, I had been putting so many deposits in my health savings account over time with my 4 pillars of health that when I got ill, I had a lot of resilience and a lot of reserves to draw on. Nobody ever wants to have to go through an illness or something like that, but I feel like I had a lot of resources internally available, both mentally and physically, as I went through that. And now I'm on the other side of it, and choosing to use like yourself a more natural solution. But I'm grateful for all of the different treatment options that were available, basically.
So I equally had been through something like what you did with mold. We had to have it abated because they left flashing off of our roof. And so one day, all of a sudden, our fireplace, the ceiling just burst beside it, and water came flowing through like a dam, like that had broke. And behind it was all of this black sticky mold. And we had been being exposed to it. It was a room I was doing my cardio in.
Oh my gosh.
And so I thought it was the competition diet, but I'd been off of it for a while. And then I realized, no, it's something else. My energy was just so like gone. And I remember laying my head down on the table, one day, just so tired after I'd gotten up from a full night's rest. And I was like, okay, I have to do something. And I went to this holistic doctor, and then we went from there. And now in my 50s, I mean, this was in my 40s, but like once I recovered from that, I mean, I built everything that my brand, my gym, I had a full competition career, wrote books. I mean, my podcast, all of it. And I was really unable to when I was suffering from all of that mold.
I had no idea that you had also been through that. I'm so glad that you were able to navigate it so successfully, and thank you for telling me, because I it's such a unusual thing. And I actually, when I first started understanding that that's what was wrong, many people dismissed me as like that's like a that's not even real, or that's not a real actually valid sickness, like you're like you have some shisty doctor like telling you crap that's not real. But I'll tell you what, after going through the detox protocols and doing all of like working with someone who's a mold expert and getting away from the source of the mold. And
Mm.
I mean, my dog also got sick from being exposed to mold. I mean, it's a very, very real thing. And some people, myself included, also have a genetic predisposition to be uber sensitive to mold. And that's also a concern. I mean, I think there is a lot, like, I don't know about you, Linda, but there I've had experiences with doctors who dismissed my concerns. I've heard from so many women who've had doctors dismiss their concerns,
Mm.
especially about the topics we're talking about right now, like the weight gain around menopause or perimenopause. Oh, it's just your age. Why don't you lose more weight? Like, go on a diet. Like, all these like really dismissive sort of, oh, there's nothing wrong. It's all in your head. Like, that kind of stuff. It's just absolutely undermining of like a
It's
woman's.
total BS.
It's complete BS. And yeah, I just want to make sure that you ladies listening know that it is BS and that your concerns are actually completely valid and that you're justified in having them. And if a doctor is dismissing you or making you or belittling you, just fire that person and find somebody else who listens to you, because
They just
that's
don't
not the less
know
than
what
you
they don't
deserve.
know. They don't know
Yeah.
what they don't know. And they're just like, instead of saying, I don't know, they're making you feel like you're crazy. You
Yeah.
can't, it can't be the mold. It can't be
Yeah.
this. It can't be your hormones.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I just want women to know that you have a case. Your intuition is strong. Women have very strong intuition. Like, our right and left brain actually have more connections than our male counterparts, and there's a reason why you have such deep intuition. Listen to it. Trust yourself. Like, get the resources that you need and deserve. Don't settle for somebody telling you that your concerns aren't valid. It's just unacceptable.
and for the longest time, you guys, I was so, after the mold damage and we got it all cleaned out, I would walk into a room and my nose would like close up instantly if I was around any kind of mold. That's how
Oh, wow.
sensitive um that I became to it. Now there is ways of natural healing, and I think going to somebody that is knows their stuff and they're
Yeah.
more on the holistic side is the way to go if you've been exposed to any kind of toxic mold, toxic mercury, anything like that can really
I
ruin
agree.
your health.
I so agree. I so agree, Linda. I was so grateful to work with a mold specialist locally, um, and just have that care. And if you're looking for a functional medicine doctor, ifm.org, that's IF as in Frank, M as in Mary.org, has a practitioner directory for finding a functional medicine doctor in your area. And they also have international directories as well. Um, that's just a great resource if you're looking for. So I'm not saying every functional medicine doctor is going to know everything or be
Yeah,
a mold
you have to
expert.
look
I'm just
around.
saying that, You have to look around, but even if you're not dealing with mold or you're dealing with something that you want more holistic care for, most functional medicine doctors have gone through regular MD training and wanted more. They've decided that they want be able to take a more holistic approach. They want to be able to offer their patients a wider perspective. So these people are really dedicated, generally speaking, to addressing the body more holistically. Most MDs really don't get any nutrition training. There's very rudimentary, and I've had MDs on the show who've talked about this and talked about their dissatisfaction with their own like education. And so that's why they went and sought more. So I think we do have more resources than we realize. Sometimes we just have to know where to look or what to look for.
And being your own advocate and
Yes.
searching for those answers instead of always accepting the answer you're given, I think
Yes.
is
Woo.
so key.
Preach it.
For
Yeah, that's it.
yeah, hard to preach with this voice today, but I'm trying. But
You're doing great.
thanks. Let me take a drink here before I ask the next question. Oh my gosh.
Model that self-caring behavior for us. Yes, good.
So why do you always say, I love this because I say that it's not all or nothing. Why do you say it's all or something, not all or nothing?
It's really similar to the flawsome concept. I remember where I was sitting when I came up with that phrase. This one I will take credit for. Flawsome I didn't make up, but all or something I did make up because I was like, it's not all or nothing. It's all or something. Like if you think about habit stacking, if you think about like those incremental small things that you do that really add up to big results. I mean, it's such a common catchphrase in our industry, but it's so true. When you like we were talking about with the lifting, if you try to go and put heavy weight on your body before you learn the foundations of squatting, you can injure yourself, right? So we got to walk before we can run, basically. And I really feel like so many of us are putting the cart before the horse. We're feeling like we need to do no days off training to get the best results, or we feel like we need to do an hour workout every day, and then we're stressed out because we haven't been able to fit it in, or we're forcing ourselves to get up at 4 a.m. to do a 4:30 a.m. workout so we can fit everything else into our day, not realizing that that might actually not be doing us any favors. I feel like do what you can with what you have, start where you are, do something. Don't feel like you have to do it all. That's why I give you grace with the 4 pillars of health. I give you grace with Flawsome. Like, think about ways you can give yourself grace. Think about ways you can take action without feeling like you have to do it all. That's why I start with 15-minute workouts, because I like to build a habit out of something that's valuable, fits into my day, that I can stick to, and then I'll build other habits around that. Like, I'm going to go to bed 15 minutes earlier. Maybe that's like something I'm going to do today. Like, I can't do all the 4 pillars of health that Betty Rocker talked about, but I can do something. I can do 15 minutes earlier to bed tonight. I can do more protein in my meals. I can do watching out for added sugar. I can do what can you do? Don't tell me what you can't do. Look for what you can do, and then do a little bit. Do a little bit here and there. All or something. All or something wins the race.
And I love that so much because I'm always telling them if it's all or nothing, soon it's going to be nothing because you can't always
Yes.
be an all or nothing person. So I like that you said it's not all or nothing. It's if you add that something in there and
Yeah.
and and also focusing on not on what we can't do, but what we can do or how
Yeah.
can I do it? How can I fit it in?
Exactly.
Do I have to break it up in 10-minute increments throughout my day?
Yeah.
And how can I make this work for my life rather than trying to cram it all in at 4:30 in the morning?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's so true. Because I just feel like, I mean, women are strong. Women are powerful. I mean, we're the ones that have the babies. I mean, women are incredible, resilient, powerful, strong. I speak to a female audience. I know you have a mixed listening audience. So I'm talking to women. Men are strong too. We know men are strong. We see how physically strong they are. I want to just talk to women for a minute and say, you are so powerful and capable and resilient and strong. And that some of that strength comes from knowing how to balance rest with your output, right? How to balance your stress management, with the things that you want to pursue and go be passionate about. Like there has to be this balance. That's where real strength comes from. It doesn't come from like going as hard as possible all the time, right? We have to have the capability of balance in our lives. And I feel like that's what really makes us strong. So, really think about where you are pushing too hard and where you can start to pull back so that you can push harder when you do push. I think that's what I would just like to say, because you are so capable of this. You are so powerful. But we have to nurture our power, you know? We have to respect our power and we have to take care of it.
And what you said right there was so important. Knowing when to rest. Rest is important. So important.
So important.
Why do you talk about rocking your life, not just rocking your body?
Thank you for asking. I I like I like that we are focused on rocking our body. I think it's a self-valuing action to care about taking care of this vessel that we go through life in, to care about our appearance. You know, these are things that are natural and human. But exercise and these four pillars of health aren't just about rocking your body, they're about your whole life. You know, when you take the time to care for yourself, everybody around you benefits by virtue of you feeling more confident, more capable, stronger, you know, having better energy. Your whole life expands as you discover the level of capability that you have to balance your life, to do all these really self-empowering, self-loving actions. And I feel like that creates a higher quality of life in general. And so that's why I say, like, it's about rock your life, not just rock your body.
And I so love that. That was so great. Um, I have really enjoyed this interview so much today. I'm going to honor my voice now because it's almost gone, I think. Um, and I was so excited to meet you, and just, you have not disappointed. I have loved everything you've had to say from the word go. And today, you guys, she has a freebie for you. Can you tell them about it?
Yes, of course. And it's just such an honor to get to talk to and meet you, someone who has left such a legacy in the fitness industry and continues to do this great, empowering work for everyone that you serve. Thank you so much for what you do and for inviting me to have a voice in your sisterhood. I would love to share. I have a free challenge that you can do if you enjoy the body weight challenges. It's called the Make Fat Cry Challenge. It's a 30-day bodyweight challenge that'll give you those 15-minute workouts to do. And if you're someone who's a little more advanced, maybe you want to try on my Foundations of Functional Fitness course to help you just get even better at lifts, primal movements, how to work with your rotator cuff, many of the things I would teach you if you're one of my clients. That is the Foundations of Functional Fitness freebie, and that's also available. So I'm sure Linda will give you some links to both of those on her show notes page.
Absolutely. And where can they reach you again on social media?
Oh, just look for the Betty Rocker anywhere and you'll find me.
And I love it so much. Everybody make sure to get that freebie and check out all things Betty Rocker. And as always, you guys, keep on keeping on. And thank you so much for coming on the show.